Good morning, guys. Thank you for attending another webinar here. Beautiful sunny Las Vegas, about 65 degrees right now. We get this weather a few months out of the year, so it's a nice day for baseball later with my boy. Special. I see some attendees here. One I have special mention for. I think if we had an award for the most attended webinars, that would go to a local man named Matt. I'll leave the last name off, but Matt, you know who you are. Good to see you on again. We're going to go over some stuff today. We're still deep in dev, those tips and tricks and new stuff, new, big time enhancements coming up that we've been working on. Michael has been working on. I'm not smart enough to do code, so my sage partner. Again, of course, this is Michael Gandy, captain of the flight today. My co-pilot, Mr. Gaskill, Michael Gaskill, partner, dev man extraordinaire. He's actually not at my ready today. He's over in his other office, but he's in close proximity. So the message box, please take advantage of it. If you have a question, we're gonna do a little different today. Gonna take a dial it back a little bit, slow walk, talk more about logic, talk more about statistical principles with the program. Now, I'm not going to sit here and do a math dissertation and try to get you up to speed in a webinar. That would be boring. So what we're going to do, though, is we're going to slow walk through the process with pairs, and we're going to do some compare and contrast today. Today's Pepsi Challenge Saturday. We ain't scared, so let's go ahead and show you the new features we've got that you can utilize for other methods such as regression, and then we're going to compare and contrast pairs against a regression platform today on at least an analysis. And I don't know, I want you guys to do in-flight movie today. I didn't send you any test files, and the reason is this time I just want you to kind of be able to absorb what I'm doing, what I'm talking about, and you guys can take that in practice and apply it to your own analysis going forward. Sometimes it's just confusing. Sometimes it's fun to play along with me. But today, I don't want to go into all the basics, but I do want to talk more about the functionality, what's happening when you do certain things, why it can make a significant difference, and why, even though those significant changes sometimes scare you, show you that they're in your advantage, they're in your favor, being able to restrict or mute errors in the data with this method. But I'll show you, like I said, we'll compare and contrast at least an analysis against a regression platform, and I'll show you the complementary nature of a lot of the adjustment support. Of course, we're better, but I'll show you the functionality that you have with this platform. It's just unmatched. And I mean, we got some stuff we're cooking on right now that over the course of the next, hopefully, month or so, we're going to implement that is just going to make your life easier and give you more tools to do it quicker, better, and, we're leaving them all in the dust. Trust me. This next one's coming up are some biggies. So I look forward to you guys getting that email that says a special webinar. When you get that one, please attend, because that's gonna blow your wig back. That's gonna be a good one. So, of course, pairs free for now. I mean, we're getting ready to plug in the ecom, so you'll be getting some kind of notification here pretty soon. I was hoping to have some of the new features. We don't know what the programming time of those is. Certainly, we're going to have to turn on the ecom side here relatively soon. But for right now, pairs free for now. So, I mean, you guys haven't been charged. A lot of you I see on here are some veterans at this point. Now, that doesn't mean you might still be getting comfortable and you're maybe still here for a webinar to benefit yourself, and that's totally fine. we're going to keep doing these, 'cause especially when we do the new features that are coming out, to show you how to properly use those. Wanted to start off today though, go to the YouTube channel. So now we need to change the bumper title, but web page screenshot. Okay, a lot of you guys might have noticed that your camera disappeared out of your Chrome browser, which was the old web page screenshot. Apparently Google yanked the tool out of their store for some issues. So what we've done is we found another awesome tool that is called FireShot. So even though this has the wrong header on it right now, and we'll definitely change that, you can see the icon is, let me just go to it and I'll show you guys so you see the link. Okay, FireShot. This is the one you guys want now. I mean, you can still use, if you want to, you can go into your Chrome tools, go into, I believe, settings, go to your extensions, and I deleted it already, but web page screenshot would be in here, and all you'd have to do is click enable. So you can still use that tool, web page screenshot, but this FireShot tool is awesome as well. I'll just give you an idea. Runs very similar mechanics as web page screenshot. And then all you do is you copy it. So, do yourself a favor, go to the YouTube channel. It's under web page screenshot, but go ahead. It is the FireShot. It shows you where to get it, and stuff like that. And FireShot also has some videos on some operational stuff. So go ahead and check that out. Okay, so that YouTube channel too. I mean, we can't stress it enough. Good Lord, look at the content on this bad boy. I mean, and this is going to be a good webinar. Glad you guys are attending, because we're gonna do some analysis here. We're at least going to do one, and go through some of the features and functions. We're not going to make it a trip down statistics lane. We're not going to try to bore you. Nonetheless, we're gonna definitely slow walk a little bit better for you today. So again, can't stress it enough, the power of modeling, statistical modeling. That's what we're doing here. There's no tricks. Are we regression? No, we are not. Pairs method defined in the knowledge base article. You can cut and paste this, put it in your report, read it, know it. You need to know it. Any method you use, you need to understand the mechanics of it. You don't necessarily have to see all the dirt between it, but you need to understand how it works. This is a statistical modeling program. Just because it's not regression-based does not make it unqualified for statistical modeling, because that's what it is. Using the gold standard, paired sales analysis with the iterative method, which is, similar to algebra. Been around since 1700 BC or something crazy, so why wouldn't we use it? They're still teaching it to my daughter in the 6th grade. But there is the pairs method doc. Everybody always wants to know, I need to be able to explain this. Well, just highlight it, copy it, paste it in your report, read it, understand it. There's even some definition links there for the end user if they want to get educated, even though as far as method goes, paired sales analysis is about the easiest method in the world to define. So we're gonna, we're proud of what we got, but I mean, we're gonna keep hammering for you guys to look at these things. Knowledge base, we got lots of articles. Remember, those cleaning data, creating new variables, the stats tab, sub-market filters, tolerances. These are going to keep growing. This is actually, I'm defunct on my part of the game. I'm supposed to be doing all this stuff. So, gotta find time. FAQs. If you got FAQs or questions, don't hesitate to send them to support. If it's a question that might be a common thread, who knows? I might not quote your name, but I'll throw it in there if it's something worthy, and I'll answer it for you. So don't be afraid to use that message box today. CU, it's out there. They had some good articles out there this week. Actually, they had some bad articles too. They had one with a headstone, said "Rest in peace, appraisers," which I was actually perplexed. It looks like the two authors, pretty heavy-handed article. Nonetheless, the premise was, or I should say the crux of the argument was limited engagement by the appraiser as far as adjustment support. And there was another article out in Housing Wire this week that talked about appraisers are going to have to support their adjustments, and that's true. And this is where this is going, guys. So in the next 6 months to a year, it's only going to take the first bank that does it. I know Wells Fargo has already let their staffers know that they are going to be required to use the tool. So it's just the next shoe to drop is one of the banks is going to say that it's a requirement to include it in your report. And remember, we put the map on a validation page, a statistically supported validation page that specifies your number that fits within that statistical model. No ambiguity, no nothing other than the number that you validate within your range. You can go anywhere between goalposts. And then you got this adjustment page to include in your report with all of your rules and roadmap to the model, some basic statistical stuff. And look at that. There's a number there, the number the professional appraiser assigned. They don't need to know any range or nothing like that. That's your job to assign that. It's a two-part process. Find yourself evidence and support, and then apply the number. If one of these numbers is too low or too high, maybe you go back in and you adjust down your calculation. As long as you're within that range, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But we put the map on this. Look, you got the stamp. If you got the stamp, you're good. Just make sure that you're not leaving something goofy in your model. If the median price per square foot in an area is $65, you're certainly not going to be able to say that it's credible that an adjustment per square foot is 67. So just make sure that everything included in your model is reasonable. Now, what's the definition of reasonable? Before we get into it, we're going to get into it. I'm not going to talk your ear off too much. But what's the definition of reasonable? Now, your gut tells you, and you want to assume that, a garage bay is $5,000, which may be, a supported number to a degree in an area, or at least reasonably close. But of course, you need support, statistical evidence for that adjustment. So you run pairs, and you get back 6,800 on the low side. Is that reasonable of a difference? Yeah, sure. Nothing's that perfect. That's the same way if, you saying a house is worth $100,000 and sales price is 101. That's you're getting pretty close if you're saying that you're exact and, you're perfect and the market's not. I mean, remember, the market's not perfect. That's the fundamental foundation of real estate. So, what's reasonable? I mean, if 5,000 and you get back statistical support on the low side at 6,800, 7,000, that's not a drastic. If you think about it, it might be palatable to you. So you have to be able to accept those things. You see a pool, you want a pool adjustment of 15,000 and it comes back 21,000, and everything else looks good in relation. You got to ask yourself, is that pool maybe recapturing more than what I'm used to seeing out here? Even if you pull a property where 15,000 would work better, remember that might be one, an isolated set of paired sales. You know, there's a difference between the simple math and statistics. You take two properties, compare them, you know, identical in all attributes except for one, extract that difference. That's math. That's paired sales. That's just math. If you do that on 10 or 15 properties and then you actually start to analyze and record all the adjustments and then look at the data that way and splice and dice, now you're talking statistics. So remember, there is a difference. But again, you know, it's just coming. You're going to have to show your work at some point. Trust me. I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't need one. And you want something like this. You want the validation page. Remember, you want to be able to navigate a precursor page that gives you ranges of values with a central estimate, but you can go anywhere in between these numbers statistically supported. You want that freedom. You don't want to be including a regression output that has a static number. Come on. You're going to have $67.31? I mean, you can't even put that in on your form filler without rounding. Or, you know, $1,800 for something. Wouldn't it be more practical to apply $1,500 or $2,000? So be the professional you are. I mean, show a comprehensive statistical analysis and be looked at differently. I keep talking about this. I mean, no robo-computer is ever, automated regression analysis is ever going to replace the professional valuation, the valuation professional, I should say. I mean, the appraiser's in charge. That is to our benefit. We just got to know how to use our judgment and show the dominance over automated analysis, and it's there. You know how to define a market area. You know how to define and accept credible and non-credible. You know those things that a computer has no idea how to do other than look at statistical significance from a confidence level. And trust me, statistics are not always correct. There's room in there for errors as well. All statistics is the study of the output of the numbers. So, you know, the market's not perfect. We've got to remember that. There's a couple of loudmouths out there that want to say that, you know, my way or the highway, and if it's not, you know, my way's perfect and nothing else is. That's just not true. That's just not true. Matter of fact, I dare anybody to go head to head with us on functionality. Okay, so enough of me talking your ear off. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and log in here to MLS, and we'll go ahead and we're going to slow walk this one. So if you guys need to go to the restroom or refresh your coffee, no problem. Today you're not going to. You'll probably be able to catch up fairly easily. But we'll go ahead and start out. I mean, there's a couple of Vegas people here. So we're going to go ahead and give you some context. Even if you're not Vegas, it doesn't matter. Numbers, you know, there's context in numbers. Don't worry. You just sit here and watch. I mean, I'm going to show you guys again some of the mistakes that are made when looking at data. I mean, you don't want to be too restrictive in that market area. Now, we're not advocating that you throw in different market areas and different types of properties in the same data set to try to analyze. So that's problematic, no doubt. But you really want to look at your overall broader areas of what is reasonably competitive and similar properties. Now, here's a hypothetical situation, a hypothetical property. Now, you know, a lot of people might just, you know, hey, okay, let's show some defines of what I see some of my peers doing, and I'll show you the error of, not error. I didn't even want to say that. I mean, if it's if you get a highly correlated set of data, limited issues, it might work out fine for you. But for example, I don't do much field review work at all. Actually, I don't do any, but I still get to peek at people's appraisals from clients asking for help sometimes. I just swung that out nasty, but you get the point. Now, some people might, define a little area like that, or they may include even this area up here and say, that's the area. Really? I mean, come on, let's step back and look at this part of town. Now, and let me show you how I would define this. And I know you're going to say, oh, you're just trying to get more data. No. Listen, if you're going to live over here, trust me, you've got some wide options. Now, there's Aliante over here. I get that. That's a master plan. Even though it rolls in here with this part of El Dorado, this is master plan. I don't mix and match. I mean, I'm not some kind of crazy loose cannon type of a guy. But what's a proper definition of a market area here? Now, for you Vegas people watching, this is important. Now we're going to get up here. We don't want to be crossing into Aliante. And Aliante is, you got to carve it out. It's a little bit goofball. Now look at that. There's some distance there, but come on. Do you Vegas people know this is all tract land? I mean, it's all flowing, all similar, trust me. But you see, if we would restrict it down here, we're not doing a market environment. This is the environment. Now this is Aliante. I carved it out. It's still part of a master plan. I don't want to get into it. But defining a broader area gives you the ability to do a better analysis. It gives you more data of still similar product, but more data is always going to be better. It's always going to render more stability in the analysis, and that's the key. So this property, for example, what are we looking at here? We're a 1,374 square footer, single story, on a pretty big lot, almost a quarter acre. No pool. Out there in hometown Encore, really nice property. So, here we go. Parameters. Now we got to get some sales data to try to do some analysis. Of course, we want listings, pendings, contingents, and all that because we've got some stuff coming for you. We're not using those now. Never will we use for an adjustment a contingent or a pending or support as far as an adjustment for a component to value. But let's just look at sales because I want to show you how many sale records we can get. So we're 1,374, so let's just put in plus or minus 25% for now. And now why am I doing that? Because I know that this is land of the tract. I mean, I'm going to get a boat ton of data. So we're 1,374, so plus or minus 25% is about 1,031 to 1,718 square feet. Now we're built in 1999. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go 1989 to 2009. Now, if you want to tighten this stuff up for year 1004 MC, then God bless you, go ahead. But I'm pulling, age is going to get measured out in any analysis I do. Livable area is going to get measured out. Plus or minus 25%, like I keep telling you guys, the old Fannie Mae guidelines as far as livable area used to be, I think, 30 or 35%. I think it was 30%, the old legacy guideline. Some of you guys might not have even been appraisers when that was going down. But plus or minus 10 years in age, that's fine. I mean, it's going to get measured out. So let's see what kind of property set of data okay, wow. So 422. Oh, we didn't put in one story. Even though we don't have to, because we could solve for one story as a variable. 422, let's just see with one story, 323. So, I mean, we don't even need two stories. I mean, 323, you know, we're jumping for joy right now. Now, you may never get those kind of numbers if you're in a rural market. We get it. But I want to show you that in situations where if you have the ability, even if it's just you're not doing an appraisal, you got some time, you want to play around with pairs and get comfortable. If you can find a tract environment or a large swath of data where maybe a municipality where everything's fairly conforming, the law of numbers applies. I mean, if you get larger sets of data, you get more balance. So 323 records within 25% livable area, plus or minus. This is even the kind of number that a regression program would like, because they need 15 or 20 representations per variable typically to render any kind of credible results. And that's why I use this one today for this demo, because I'm going to go ahead and give a fair chance at a regression platform so that we can compare and contrast, but show you the absolute power that you have with pairs over those methods. Okay, so that was the setup. So I'm going to go back to create a new analysis. You know what? I'm going to slow walk this. I didn't send you guys the data, so this is an in-flight movie. I know you're watching me. But for anybody that's a new user, I logged into my account, create a new pairs analysis, pretty basic. I'll go ahead and title it. It's a single family home, and my effective date was the 9th. My source is correct. Okay, I'm going to find this data set. You can see our network, massive. And look at this. This is an idea of what you get with my my work files, guys. Yeah, you know, state comes calling on these kind of work files. They got a boat ton of data to look at. I can reinvent the wheel on any appraisal I do. I don't even need the MLS anymore. I got enough data in there that doesn't matter. Okay, so the data is going to table and index for us. Now, remember, we're doing the same property. So 323. It's only a couple days ago, so let's hope that hasn't changed. Let's go to Analyze Pair, give it a second to load up. Hamster's running around with calculators right now. I'm going to do that initial analysis. And what's our motto, guys? You guys should know it by now by heart. You probably want to stab me when I say it. We never look at what jumps off the page, ever. It's a process. We got things to do. You got to address variables. You got pruning to do. You got to set up, you know, we have default variables that are in your panel, but we also have variables that will populate if they're in your data set and we have some kind of history of significance with those. For example, new construction. If your MLS identifies that, that's a variable that we've historically seen makes a significant difference at time. Guest house, that's typically not in your default variable list, but if a property has one, it's going to populate. You can get rid of that variable. All we're doing is alerting you to things that are in your data that could be significant, significant component to value. So let's go to the stats tab, though, and just to, you know, I want you guys to know we're playing fair. 323 records. 323 records. Now, we can say all day long, this is a hypothetical. That's, I guess, supposed to be what I'm supposed to say. And I'm unconventional, so don't be turning me into nobody. I'll still get out of, man, I'll be angry, though. It's not fair. I'm trying to show data. We're talking data here, guys. So, okay, so remember, market rate change. Now, here, you guys get to be the professional. Now, we look over here, we have a modest rate. This looks like, I mean, we can show statistically a 9.365% rate of appreciation, statistically. Now, of course, we could change the weighting. We could take out distressed sales. Well, we can eyeball smaller segments of the market. But I want you to step back here for a second. Look, we got a little bit lower. These two are higher. A little bit lower, lower. I mean, got some choppiness. Now I want to show you, I use other tools like some of you guys may use for now. Not going to have a need for that pretty soon. But I just want to show you something. So yeah, technical trend. You guys will probably be familiar with this. I'm going to bring it over. Now let's drill down. I like price per square foot. This is a little bit different of a format. Now, of course, I took out the standard line because it supported the same increase. But when you step back for a second and start to look at, okay, the last 10 months, for example, you know, yeah, okay, we've got a hair above the here. I mean, there's a lot of stability to me. And that's okay. You may say, hey, in your opinion, you may say, you know what, that rate to me is going up and I'm going to apply it. I'm not. I'm just telling you right now, I call this thing stable. I'm not. Now that's me. I have a technical trend line. But I just showed you that if you step back and really zoom on those candles, there's a lot of, at least for the last 10 months. We could change minimums, maximums. Maxes have come down a little bit. Tri-mean. You got all these different options. The mega mean, my favorite. Anyways, I'm not applying a rate, guys. So that's the first thing we always go into is the market rate change. If you would want to apply a rate, you could simply click apply. You could change that number around it so it's easier on you on the calculator. If the last 5 months, in your opinion, is stable, but the rest is increasing at about a rate of 9% for the year, but 5 months of stability, don't adjust anything within 150 days. That's 30 days on average, 5 months, 150. If you apply this rate, you guys all know, it's going to break that rate down into a daily rate. And it's going to apply a market condition adjustment to every property in your data set from the contract date to the effective date. It's not going to touch any property contracted within the prior 150 right now, if you see that. So again, you could accept any rate you want. This rate, that rate, put in your own rate, number of unadjusted days. You're the professional. You work it out. So that's the first thing we did, is that change dialog. So now the second thing you wanted to start doing is the variables in the panel. Not so much the amounts, but the variables that populated up. So the first thing, now the obvious ones are the first ones I tackle. I don't even go in alphabetical order. We know I did a filter, for example, on livable area, 1989 to 2009. I mean, we can verify that. Let's go to the stats tab. There's a lot in here. By the way, guys, you remember we used to have 500 sales records. You can do up to 1,000 sale records. We opened it up. Had a few cases in California where some people wanted a little bit more juice. So I told you we can do thousands of records. It's a matter of a memory hog, but so we've opened it up. You can do up to 1,000 sale records. You can have 10,000 listings in there. We're talking about that whole data set, though, can't contain more than 1,000 closed sales for the analysis part. And it can contain more than that. It'll just give you a message that it's going to only go off of the first 1,000 tabled and indexed unless you apply some filters. So it'll still go through the analysis, and then you can skin it down to 1,000 or less. But look, we know the highest property in age is 2008, or the most newest in this data set. So here we go. We know this is not right. This is an agent that in condition status but new, probably because the property was a flipper or a rehab. They went in there, blew it out, call it new construction. But we know that's not true. And on the stats tab, there's one property in here, which is actually good to know. Out of 323 realtors, only one of them is a little challenged in their definition of what new is. So we don't need to remove that variable from the analysis. We just know that the realtor is playing fast and loose with definition here. But the record's good. So all we need to do, if we don't want to remove the whole record from analysis, is on solution strategy, drop that down to none. And we click update, and voila, it's gone. The property's still in the analysis. That variable is not significant. It's not accurate, and we're taking it out. Now you guys bear with me because we're going through some of these things first before we do some other things that I want to talk about with you. Tolerances, we're going to get to those. Going to get to them. So guest house. Okay, so now that's a pretty significant number. And I mean, in Glaver, for example, a casita gets coded as a guest house for conformity. So another option might be to drop that out of your panel. You could go additional livable area, which would give you actually the price per square foot. This is giving you a holistic price. But again, I'm 1374 square foot tract home. I don't have any. And now look at the stats tab. Highlight guest house. We look at stats. We got one property in here that says it has a guest house. And look at the median pricing difference. I mean, it's definitely significant. I mean, 295 pairs came out of that. So there's one property in here. Now that is not possibly an error. I could chase it down if I wanted. But remember, we have 323 properties in here, guys. Now, I don't want to deal with that property. I really don't. So now if I remove it here, I'm leaving the property and I'm just not accounting for that variable. I don't want to do that in this case because I can see there is a significant premium, obviously, to that component. So you know what? I want to remove any record, which is only one, that has that variable from analysis. Now to do that, we go into submarket filter, change. And we're going to, just simply drop down box on add a variable. And we'll scroll down to guest house. So we highlight that. And it gives us the values here, filter type values. Got guest house over here's the variable, and it gives us filter type, no or yes. So if I click yes, well, it's only going to keep properties that have a guest house in the analysis, and that's the actual inverse of what we want. We don't want anything in our data analysis with a guest house, so we're going to click no. This is just a way to filter out that property from analysis, so it doesn't create artificial noise in other variables that we leave in our data set. So once you highlight no, you just simply click save. Now it's going to come back. We didn't take guest house yet out of our panel or variable list, so it's going to come back with a no solution. But we know why, because we removed everything. Guest house, highlight it. We removed the property that had a guest house from analysis. You can see our 323 records is now in a submarket filter of 322 because we threw that one property out of the analysis. So you don't want to have this in your face. I mean, there's no solution. You're never going to get one. We removed the variable. So again, strategy, drop down box to none. If you say none and you click update, it's going to update the whole model and it's going to remove that variable like you should. Okay, so let's talk here about tolerances. It's like the elusive topic that everybody must have been drinking when we came up with that one. But people really have a rough time with tolerances. Now, I keep telling you guys tolerances. For example, this PAIRS method. I'm going to trademark that, PAIRS method. It's a two-part process. Paired sales analysis is the first part of the process. After paired sales analysis, the iterative method kicks in. It's a wonderful refinement tool. Allows for the reinsertion of variables that get solved for back into the model so that more comparisons can be made after you solve for variables. So it's awesome. So this tolerance of 2%, for example, in livable area. Let's just say hypothetically in this data set we have a property that's 1,000 square. Let's just say hypothetically we have 1,000 square foot, even though we know we don't in this data set. 1,000 square foot house. You know, and let's say we have another property that's 1,013 square foot. And they're both built within 2 years difference of each other. They're both on lots that are, you know, within a couple hundred square feet, not identical. But the 1,000 square foot house, believe it or not, has 3 full bathrooms. And the 1,013 square foot house has 2. But when you look at year built, you know, there's only 2 years difference between them, both built, let's just say hypothetically 95 and 96 or 97. And lot sizes are 5,400 and 5,800. So very close in everything, very close, not identical. Paired sales analysis we know needs to be identical. So in that situation, if we had, for example, a 4-year tolerance for age, a 500 square foot tolerance for lot, and a 2% tolerance for livable area, and of course we still have bathroom in our panel, basically what we're allowing the platform for all intents and purposes and trying to extract out a bathroom adjustment is we're going to say, hey, that 1,000 square foot house and the 1,013 square foot house within 2 years of each other satisfies that requirement. Within a couple hundred square feet a lot, it's going to get covered in there. You can compare those two properties for the sole purpose of extracting out that bathroom adjustment in paired sales. So a 2% livable area tolerance, for example, allows us to compare a 1,000 square foot house to a 1,020 square foot house. And we say that they're identical or similar in livable area. Now in the second part of the process, in the iterative method, we address that 2%. We're not saying that 2% doesn't have any value. That's not what we're saying. It's a two-part process. This helps extract the first priming adjustments for this. We then reinsert this finding back in, and we discard all of the adjustments, and we continue the process, allowing more properties to compare, and then addressing the 2%. Okay, what's that 13 square foot worth now? Now that I've solved for Bath, I reinsert it back in the model, and I can solve for that. So don't think that it may make a difference. That's what the tolerances do. They give you the ability to apply real-world pragmatic approaches to say, you know, hey, I got two properties that are fairly similar. They're different in one significant element to me. I need to just extract out that element. That's what you're doing. You're giving the program room to say it's okay to call things within these boundaries similar in this attribute in order to try to extract out this attribute or that attribute. Now, sometimes this is a way to manage, errors in data at time too. I mean, a lot of times you can either increase a tolerance or decrease it, and it will change the number of pairs that went into the priming round for different variables, which could significantly alter the results. Now, if you get a noisy property or error in the data, you can restrict that by either increasing a tolerance at times, which will allow for more pairs so it drowns out the one bad error, or you can reduce the pairs to keep it completely out of the first round, and then when it gets addressed in the iterative process later, that error gets minimized again. That's something you can't do with regression programs. You know, if you get a bad number, you get a bad number. So you can always test the tolerances. Now, you know, I mean, you want to look at correlation with your data set. For example, a 500 square foot lot tolerance. We go from 3,900 square foot to a little over a quarter acre. 500 square foot might be fine. You might say, hey, I don't see much of a difference between 1,000 square foot. You can apply those and test. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes going higher or lower. You know, don't be afraid to dial back. For goodness sakes, you know what? Standard default's 2%. So let's just start off and let's dial it back. But I'm going to show you what we're ultimately going to do. Remember, we had 322 records in this analysis. So there's a lot of data. We might not even really need tolerance. You might just be able to go really, really raw on the data and just take it one by one. But you can see we dropped the livable area. I mean, you know, we're just playing right now. We're cognizant of what's going on. I mean, I could see what's in my variable panel. I'm telling you right now, I was doing this appraisal. We got rid of new construction. I mean, these are the only things that I'm concerned about. Tract land over there. There's, I don't have any barns or stuff to deal with. But don't be afraid to, change those tolerances. So we just went down. Now that a significant primary driver livable area is 51 there. I mean, if we go up 3%, instead of 2%, which is the default. So we just went down one. Now we're going to go up. We're just testing. Don't be afraid to test. Okay, so look, so we went from 51 to 54. But look at that. We started to lighten up bathroom. Garage bay looks a little bit light, but hey, gated is not showing. It's showing a lot of no solution. There's only 13 properties in here. It's a close negative. It's no solution. So obviously right now under these rules, we'd be getting rid of that variable because it's not significant, obviously. But we don't want to do that yet because it might get significant if we change some tolerances. Now, just pay attention when you're playing. Very low price per square foot for dirt. Let's show you that area. Yeah, I've ran data in here tons of times, guys. I mean, that is very, very typical out there. Now, I'm not saying 3 cents a square foot. is where it should be, and I actually don't like that, but it's not significant of a $10 Summerlin, something like that. But you can play with these. And now let's move that from 500 square foot tolerance to 1,000. Property, 6,000 square foot lot, you can compare it, Mr. Computer, to 6,999 square foot lot if the only other difference is livable area. And measure that out. That 900 square feet I'm not worried about for right now. I know you'll address it later. But again, we just made a significant change from 500 to 1,000. This went up another slight dollar. This stayed about that 3 cents. So I mean, that gated, still no solution. We can tell this is probably, look at the stats. I mean, the median price of non-gated and the median price of gated shows a little bit of a difference in a positive territory. But remember, the majority of these gated ones are probably bigger properties. And that's why it shows, it looks like statistically there might be something here, but it's obviously getting measured out the other way. So that probably tells me that there's more in this data set that are in the gated that might be larger. There might be more pools built in here. And pool is obviously getting something significant. But we don't, so we could do some things. I mean, gated here a couple of different ways. Gated's not coming up. So, hey, let's drop it out of the panel. Now, do we want to kick out these 13 records? I don't. It's just telling me that gated is not really a big factor here. Now, the great thing is, once in a while, guys, if in the case of, let's say you remove this. I had one that I was sure it was going to come back and ask, and I like to be proactive. There was no difference for a gated location in one that I just did about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks now. So I took it out of my panel because there was no solution. And what I did to be proactive is I took this number, these numbers, and I put it on my validation page. So not, of course, this, but my validation page. And gated wasn't in there, and I actually had 2 properties that were gated versus 4 that weren't. And I still included the 4 that weren't either. And no adjustment. But what I did was I went ahead and I made a snippet. So I did my validation page, and then I went ahead and I added back in gated into my model. And I removed it after I put my validation page in there. But then I made a comment in the addendum that the appraiser is well aware that 2 of the properties were in gated communities. However, there was no market reaction measurable for the gated location in the analysis model that was performed. So you know what I did though? I was proactive. I made even a little extra map page, and I did a screenshot of that being inserted into the model and what the result was. No solution, negative. Now I still ended up taking that out of my analysis, but I put a picture of it in there so that they could see why I made no adjustment, because it was going to render a no solution. So there's nothing wrong with taking that extra step if you want to communicate to the end user that you did analyze that attribute in the market area. But there was no difference. It happens, guys. It happens. Now, there are intuitive things, or excuse me, that's the wrong word. As appraisers, we believe there's an intrinsic value in certain variables. I'm going to show you here in 2 seconds. For example, bathroom. Now you walk into a house as an appraiser, pragmatic, representing, trying to crawl into the head of the typical buyer. You walk into a 3-bath house versus a 2-bath house. Your gut instinct is there's a value add there. You know there's a value add. Can you find evidence and support for it statistically using pairs or any other method, well, that's a challenge. But you know there's a value there. Now, we have other methods that you guys shouldn't be afraid to employ, and I'm going to show you here in a second how to use them and build them into your statistical model. So that's the beauty of pairs too, guys. We marry, first of all, paired sales analysis, that's one method. Iterative method, that's another method. Now, if I plug in a depreciated cost value on one of these variables, I'm putting in another method. But guess what? I'm doing it all in the environment of a statistical model. So everything is interrelated. So it's not like I'm just assigning a value here for one thing and there for one thing. No, no, no. We're doing that, but we're doing it in an environment where everything is actually interrelated. It's being impacted by the adjustments that we say. So we just took gated out. Let's before we get into it, we're going to take gated out of the analysis. I'm leaving in the properties. Just because they're selling for a little bit less, well, that's counterintuitive. You're not going to pay less to be in a gated. The question is, are people paying more? And obviously they're not. So let's take that out, and then now let's start looking at our panel. Let's get serious here. So, okay. Not bad. I mean, really not bad. Now this seems a little low to me, but you know, hey. Now let's show you something that, remember, 322 records after we kicked out that one with the guest house. We still got a lot of data. Now I just talked about it with you. Let's go in here, and you know what? Let's remove. I want you guys to pay attention to these numbers. These are actually, most of you are probably like, hey, I'd live with those numbers. Why are you messing around? Because I always teach you guys, once you get something that's credible, lock and load. Get in and get out. Don't waste time anymore. Once you get to credible town, you're done. As long as your rule sets are reasonable, get that validation page and go. But let's remove all the tolerances, because we got a lot of data. So we're going to have a lot of properties that might be identical in most things except for one variable. And let's update it, and let's just see what happens. Now, you can do this when you got large sets of data. And once in a while, I like to play around, especially if I'm going to compare and contrast against regression. It's fair. I mean, they're limited in their approach and what they can do. We're not. What do we got? Bathroom, garage, livable area, lot size, pool. I don't know about you guys, but hey, I'm liking it. Look at this. I mean, 4,000 on a bath. We got that unicorn in a 4-leaf clover pasture. We got $5,000 on a garage bay. Or 6. Anywhere 45 to 6. A livable area. Now, dirt. Dirt is a little bit light. We can't help it. But remember, it's all relative. You Vegas people know, hey, there's not a lot of deviations in site sizes out here. There's some, but obviously from a statistical standpoint. And all we filtered here was guest house. Changed one record. So now I'm accepting of all these, and actually I'm scratching my head because maybe I looked at a different one that I'll have to get into later that might have had a different analysis. Hold on 2 seconds, guys. Okay, I'm back. Michael was just coming in here to tell me that. Okay. So let's remember, before we get into this, because these are all happy town, I'm sure all you guys are shouting for joy. And we got great numbers here. With a lot of data. I get it. Michael just came in though and talked to me about what's the difference of removing a variable from the panel, from the analysis right here, versus removing a variable in the submarket filter. Okay, let's say we have that property, guys, with the guest house. Now, guest house was in our panel. If we would have removed it from here, just said none, and get it out of here. I don't want to see a guest house in my analysis. That property with the guest house is still in the analysis, meaning for other things. We're saying that the guest house is not significant. So it'll compare that house with a guest house. If it's within tolerances, it'll compare that house to any other property in there, just trying to extract out one of these other variables. Now that could be dangerous. I mean, that guest house was showing $40,000. So if you say that it's not significant here, but keep it in the analysis, and it compares to another property that's very similar, except we have a guest house, it doesn't, and that one has, let's say, one bath less. That's where you get a bath adjustment that says $44,000. Because the difference between is 44 grand, and the only difference it says is significant from your opinion is the bath. But we know that there's a guest house in there. So if you have a property to remove from analysis, because that is not a variable it's a significant variable, and you don't want to leave it in there, you don't want to consider it, you want to select the variable in the sub-market panel and click No. Now when you do that, you've taken out every property that has that variable in the analysis. If you just remove it from the analysis, the property is still it's still being used. So that's the difference. I mean, if I don't know how much easier to say it, really. I mean, that's a pretty easy way to say it. But anyways, look at this. So we got awesome bang up results here with no tolerances. Not one. So I mean, the tolerances, they give you so much freedom. I mean, you guys have got to understand the power that you have. Now I know a lot of you guys are fans of not fans. I mean, that's not even fair. I mean, you know, you've been instructed that regression is the only method. That regression is the only thing that can be perfect. And that's wrong. This is a statistical model within what we believe in most cases is a superior method. And no matter what anybody says, it's definitely superior in functionality. But let's see. So pay attention to these numbers. So I told you guys that we have an export function in pairs. We could go back to data. There it is right there, guys. Now we've made this is how unscared of any other method we are, regression. You know what the problem is with regression in most cases is you got to clean the damn data, or you normalize, and I said the D word, so I apologize for you guys. It's not Sunday yet. So bear with me. But the problem with a lot of the regression platforms is you got to normalize data. What's normalized data? Well, in Glaver, for example, we have 3/4 bath, half bath, full bath. We don't have a field that says 2.75 baths. So you got to normalize that. If you don't normalize that, I mean, if you go off the total bath count, well, 3 bath could be 2.5 bath. It could be 2 2/4 bath, a full bath, a 3/4, and a half. So you got to normalize that. You got to go through all the list fields. I mean, exterior house views, for example. I think there's 6 different fields that you can put in house view in Glaver. You can use column 1, column 2. You could put golf view in column 1 or golf view in column 6. You dump that data into a regression program, it doesn't know to grab, if it's in 6, it's still just as good as the one in 1. It doesn't group them together. You now, if you load your data in pairs, you can export it out normalized and clean. So you can dump it into your regression program. You go right after it. You export it from here, click that button, it'll ask you where to save it in a CSV format. Boom. You can now upload that file to any regression platform, and all the views will be normalized, all the baths are normalized. You don't have to clean your data and set it up anymore. And why is that important? Because let's remember, we just did an analysis, and I want to show today's Pepsi Challenge Saturday. We're comparing and contrasting. And the next one that I am going to have to go into another one after this because I want to show you the real. Actually, this one kind of shows the point. So, and we'll do this a little bit slower, but remember, watch the numbers. 4,000 on that bath, anywhere between 30. I mean, we got some room. So I exported the data and I dumped it into StatWing. Now people always laugh. Why do you have a regression account, Michael? Usually for the sole purpose of reference. That's it. I don't use regression on a daily basis. I don't use it at all. I use it when people are confused of why they can't get credible results. And I tell them that, that usually is your data. And they argue with me, no, this is the market, this is it, I'm telling you, it's the program. And I say, okay, so we're going to take that same data, I dump it into pairs, I normalize it, I kick it back out, I put it into a regression platform, and then I show you that you get garbage numbers there too, because your data's garbage. It's not the methods, it's the data. You've got outliers, you've got stuff not accounted for, or whatever. So I have AVT, and I have StatWing. So now here is 322. Why is 322? Because I did the same thing, apples to apples. I took out that guest house property. So I dumped this into StatWing, my regression account, which is, in my opinion, one of the more user-friendly UIs. I like StatWing's user interface. David Braun's AVTs, it's a different beast altogether. So now I know it's kind of hard for you to compare and contrast, these numbers. Let me see if I can maybe make that a little bit easier for us to do. There you go. Hold on. So there's some wonky people out there. Now Greg's not one of them at StatWing, by the way. I've talked to him. He's a good guy, not a problem. But there's some people out there that question pairs method, which is crazy. Paired sales analysis in the iterative method really goes back 1700 BC with algebra based. I mean, you can tell me those are not credible methods? They absolutely are accepted. And this is the interesting thing. Regression is not the only method out there, but it's been touted as it's the only thing that's perfect. I want you to compare some of these things. Let's look at our livable area. We can go between 48 and 65 statistically supported with a central point of about 5671. Or you could use this and you got to stick in $55.20. No room. They say you got this confidence level over here that you could look at. Sorry. Let me find out where it is. There it is. 48 to 62. So very close. But this is what I like to show too sometimes when you got a good set of data and regression can run because they need more representations. But I like to show a comparison of the methods and some of the outputs. Now look at, for example, short sale. $20,000 negative. 20,583. We've got 20,465. Year built 684. Year built they got 606. Pool we got 11,749. They got 10,650. They got 4,135 on a garage. We've got that unicorn in a 4-leaf clover pasture. We've got that $5,000 garage if we want. 5,290 though. I'm just showing you the difference in the consistency of the numbers. Repo, 49.79, 47.80. I mean, look how close these numbers are, guys. Now, lot size, they have $1.73. Yeah, that's not happening out there. Now, ours might be a little bit light, but I'd take light over that. Look at this bath. Here's where we get good, guys. Now, you guys are loving this bath. I know it. I know it. $4,000 for a bath? How does that happen? Okay, 4,000 for a bath. Now, all the other numbers were very similar. I just showed you that. Let's show you where it gets unsimilar and where you're stuck with regression, where you're never stuck with pairs. You have multiple methods. I mean, worst case scenario, we can go commando. We can do depreciated costs and plug it into pairs. We can always solve for bath. Look at what they got for bath. A negative $1,970. Now, I just showed you the extreme similar complementary numbers for almost every variable in this panel. But we got a $4,000 bath adjustment, and they're kicking back a negative almost $2,000. So if you were to rely on this, of course, what would you have to do? You'd have to remove that bath from your model, because just like pairs, you don't leave in a no solution or counterintuitive or non-credible. You're not supposed to do it. So you'd remove it, and it made some small alterations, but pretty much stayed the same. But again, we had almost the same numbers, but we solved for that bath. Now I'll show you. Let's do the. So we removed bath from our regression panel. So here's the side by side, guys, that I did for you yesterday. If it'll open up. Now wait a second. That's a different one. Oh man. I think I was trying to do a different one on you. Hold on a second. What did I do different here? Maybe this is a different analysis. La 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 la. Did I change the trim? Let me just change this trim, guys, and see if that's the deal. Before I want to be fair. I think I didn't like that 39 cents a square foot on dirt, and this is what you can do with pairs. This is what you can't do with other programs, but you can do with pairs. Now I just trimmed 5 there, and that definitely wasn't the number. Okay, well, I'm going to have to accept 35 cents a square foot on dirt, but hey, I solved for that bath. You know, this is, again, just for the sole purpose of showing you. I mean, let's add that bathroom back in there. Remember, you couldn't, if you were doing regression in this data set, you can't solve for that bath. All the other numbers were almost identical, but pairs got that bath. Now, let's just go back to pairs. Let's do that trim 5 that I just had on there, where the bath was almost gone. But let's say you like the trim 5, the impact to the other variables. Maybe lot size, which, you know, this could change. But let me just show you. Let's just say hypothetically we got negative $1,970 for a bath on pairs. And you want that bath because as an appraiser, you know there's a value there. You just want to find evidence to support it statistically. So you got a couple of options here, guys. Couple of options, powerful options that you can use. First of all, change the strategy. Now, we got solve fully as your default. There's solve once. So what is solve once and solve fully, the difference between them? You know what? I'm going to read it to you right off the knowledge base. It's actually good for you guys to, you know, understand. I believe I have a knowledge base article. Oh, not yet. Oh boy, I shouldn't have showed you that because Michael's going to hit me with a stick. I got to get on that. So solve fully, the default strategy, means do the paired sales method, take that central point, record it out of those results, reinsert it back into the model generationally, keep going until all of the other variables are solved in the model. Now solve once is the first time Mr. Pairs program, you solve for garage. Let's say you solve in the first generation. Before you go into the iterative method, I want you to take that first prime adjustment that you get for that variable. It's still, sometimes in a lot of cases, it would be paired sales direct. I mean, the first set of data would be analyzed. We give you a central point of data, a central point of value on that. Now, when you go solve fully, you're going to take that central point, reprime it back into the model to make more comparisons with other properties to refine the adjustment. Sometimes that can make a difference. So let's change this from our default to solve fully to solve once. Once in a while, if you like everything over here, but you don't like this, before you go commando crazy with tolerances stuff, just test your solution strategy. Let's go solve once and see if that makes a good difference. These are the options I was going to tell you if we had a negative number for bathroom. Well, we could try solve once. Or a non-credible, negative or non-credible. Now this is going to give us the first solved value for this variable. Now look at that. That's awesome. So we got almost that same $4,000. And if you look, guys, now we isolate variables and we solve. They're all interrelated. Don't get me wrong. They're interrelated. But if you see the needle didn't hardly move at all. You might like this number better because, hey, you can go 50 cents a square foot on dirt. Make yourself happy. And I want you to eyeball, would you eyeball this histogram? I mean, for God's sakes, that lot size, I know it seems low. It's based on 39,521 pairs. I mean, a crazy amount of data. That number, as low as it may seem to you, I mean, there's a boat ton of weight. And we have no tolerances, so you don't have to worry, even though the tolerances always get addressed. So now look at that. So let's say we had that 116, which we did. Regression had a negative for bath. Now what did we just do? This number is still built into the model. We didn't say, hey, pull this number out and stop. No, it doesn't work that way. They're all interrelated. So it just stops this variable through the iterative method. So now another thing though, let's say let's hypothetically we did solve once, and let's say this number was still a negative or $100. Okay, let's go to adjust only. Now over here we got to do an initial. So adjust only. What does that mean? Adjust only means we're going to supply a value to the model. Now you want to be mindful when you do this. You are building it into the model. So if you put in a bad number here, it's going to have relationship effects and impacts to the rest of the variables. So if you do insert a number in here, you need to make sure that it's credible. And if I do it, I always source where I get it. But let's say, for example, I just whipped out the book, Marshall and Swift. If you research the Appraisal Institute, multiple classes, anybody that knows anything about appraisal will tell you, when you talk about adjustment support, there are multiple methods to get credible support for your adjustments. One of them is depreciated cost. Cost is a function of value. It's not the only function of value, but it is a credible method. It's accepted practice, but you gotta source it typically, and that's where people fall down. Well, that's kind of based on cost. Okay, we'll take the extra step and say where it is. So I got my Marshall and Swift open. I'm looking at fixtures. There's 4 fixtures in a bath, $1,210 per fixture, times my local multiplier, national multiplier, about 5,900. And our house built in 1999, which is the middle ground of the age in this data set. 16 years old, probably an effective age of 10 on a 70 year expected lifespan, blah, blah. Let's say let's say let's depreciate it. Well, let's just depreciate it even 15%. Actually, let's depreciate it 20%. Let's go around $4,000 depreciated cost. Now, we're telling the model, we're telling the platform, every time you approach bathroom difference, you use this number. Now, remember, hypothetically, we had a negative here. We're trying to show you the differences of what you could do with this platform that you couldn't do with the regression that we showed you, other than get rid of it. And you know as an appraiser there's a value. Here's a depreciated cost method, totally credible. I'm going to put it in my addendum. How many fixtures, price per fixtures, Marshall and Swift, local estimates, multipliers, this, that, and the other. And then go ahead and give them the amount and round it. But now let's click update and see what this does to the rest of the model. Because remember, we isolate the variables and solve, but they're still interrelated. I mean, especially with the iterative method, they're ping-ponging back and forth. Okay, so again, we just solved for bathroom from a credible method. Our garage bay, little bit higher, not bad. Little bit more on livable area. Lot size poked up to $1 if you wanted to solve it because you like the result of that better. That pool stayed about the same. REO and short sale about the same. Year built, slightly different. So I just showed you 2 different ways that you could have solved, that we did solve. Actually 3. We solved 3 different ways. Solve fully gave us a result. I think one we didn't like because we liked the trim. 5, we changed the trim. Uh-oh, I solved fully and I left in my prime adjustment. Okay, now what does that do? So somebody's going to ask that question. So if I do solve fully and I leave that $4,000 in there, I'm saying in the first round, go off of $4,000 as the priming adjustment. That's not the illustration I will point out to you. What I wanted to point out to you was that in solve fully, that was not credible. It was credible with the lower filter. I mean, look, here's another option that we had to get to liven up a bath adjustment where you just couldn't solve it in regression. I mean, we just had, okay, we did adjust only. We did solve once instead of solve fully, and now I'm changing my filters, and look what happens when I change my filter to 2.5% instead of 5%. Again, I get that number. Now, if you guys are not seeing, we just now we've totaled up 3 or 4 ways that we get credible results in everything else that was almost identical to regression, but we solved for that bath where it couldn't. 3 or 4 different methods to get there. I mean, do you guys see that yet? Where, you know, if we go back to here, you have one way to get that adjustment without tinkering with the data. Now, I've seen some videos where people are saying, oh, I'll go into your data and filter it down, carve out to a smaller section, or filter between your baths to try to get rid of the low ones or whatever. And all you're doing there is you're trying to cut the data down to give you an answer that you want. Now that's not data cleanliness. That's trying to play with the data to get the number you want. But look, negative 1970. You have one option, other than playing with the data, and that's getting rid of it. And you know there's a value there. Let's say you got a comp that has a half a bath extra or a full bath. You're going to say that, well, everything else accounts for it in the value and we don't need that one. You don't want to say that in appraiser. You know there's a value in it. You just want to prove it or show some evidence. Now, good Lord, changing our filter gave us that $4,000 bath. That's one. We'll load it back up at the 5 where we go get a non-credible number. Let's change the strategy. Solve once. We don't like 129. Solve once. Let's change the strategy. See if that makes a difference. We know it does. We just saw the result, and we'll see it again. I mean, boom. On the high side, we're close to that 4. This one's a little bit lighter. But all the other variables are just dialed in. We're going to just depreciated cost and build that into the model so that every other variable is statistically impacted by the number we're inserting into the model. I mean, look at the flexibility. This is what I'm trying to get across. This is why we're so hopped up, excited about what we've got. We've got some enhancements coming on deck that are going to make your life even easier. I mean, if you could make pairs the frying pan and beat it over the head of anybody that wants to argue with you, that's what you're going to have. But now look at the different. I mean, I just can't keep saying it. Now we've changed tolerances. We took those out of the mix. We changed our filter to get a good result. We changed the solution strategy to get a good result on a variable that we think is significant. We solved for it and built it into the model. We did all these things, and under the auspices of all the other variables that are interrelated, have stayed right in the same lane where they were. I showed you the numbers on the regression. I mean, they were extremely complementary. Extremely. I mean, some of them are within a couple bucks. So have confidence in the method. I mean, listen, we filed a patent on this. We're proud. I mean, this is whiz-bang stuff. We're cutting new ground, new territory. But the thing is, I'm an appraiser. 26 years. I'm active to this day. I do appraisals every day. Nobody think I don't. So if you call or leave support or you want to talk to me, it's sometimes a little bit tough. But the reason we're so excited is because I use it in practice. I realize all the functionality and features that you have at your disposal in pairs that are unmatched. You cannot do these things in any other program. I mean, you just can't. Only pairs. And we've got some more things coming that are just absolutely wild. So this is, I wanted to do this, and I might do it here and there. I'm not going to bash. And trust me, guys, when I tell you that I have that other regression platform, that's one of the ones I have. I also have AVT, and I only use them for reference purposes for things like this, to show you the complementary nature. In some cases, when you have a lot of data and regression performs okay. I am not dogging regression at all. I'm not an opponent of it. And the programs that I'm showing you, I'm showing you because they're actually better ones. There's that automated thing out there that ain't right. You know it's not right in your heart. That's playing fast and loose and trusting way too much stuff to a computer. Yeah, no, very minimal interaction with. But this is the difference. I mean, the power of what you can do in your own environment. It statistically supported, the flexibility, it's just unmatched. I mean, we laugh about it amongst ourselves. On a head-to-head contest, though, there is no contest, guys. I mean, if you match us up with, first of all, we know what methods are out there for appraisers as far as big data, statistical stuff. You've got regression, then you got the pairs method. You got pairs. And we beat the pants off them all the time. It's not even a fair competition. I mean, there's so many things you can do inside pairs, different strategies, different things. It's not even fair. And at the end of the day, guys, I mean, we've got that precursor page where you get to be the professional again. What you are. I mean, you don't have to take that number. You can I got statistical support for the numbers I want, and they don't need to see this. You know what? Yeah, I'm going low on lot. I don't care. Everything else is credible. I got an awesome model. And they don't need to see. You know what? I'll round this. There's someone on the line that another user, Diana, she always asks me why I don't round the short sale and the REO, because I like to look like a genius. But this is where we get to be the professionals again, guys. They don't need to see that range. They don't need to see this. That's ambiguity. Oh man, you didn't nick a sales price, but if you'd have went $65 a square foot instead of 50, we'd have made that sale price. You're going to use 65 if it adjusts your comps to the better number. If it's not the most optimal adjusted range of values, you're going to back it down. It's a two-part process. We get you support. You have to apply those adjustments to your properties in your report. And if you might say you apply $5,000, and you might come back and say, yeah, you know what? My bigger garage bay properties are sitting a little bit higher. I'm going to goose that. I'm going to come back in here and change that to 6. You have that freedom. You have that freedom. Statistically supported between any one of the goalposts. Now you got to be in the goalpost. We know that. We've talked about that. But you know, not to mention the functionality and the features and the flexibility that you have with pairs. I mean, but, you know, at the end of the day, we put the map on this. A validation page that shows the professional's number. It doesn't show that ambiguity. It shows how many pairs went into that number, the strategy you used, all your property information, the rules set, the roadmap for your statistical model. Now, yeah, of course, we've got a report page that you get for your work file, but they don't need to, you don't want to communicate that one to the end user. You know, that's if you got to produce your report to the state or, God forbid, litigation. But look at this. I mean, communicate your number. You want to use this page, or do you want to use this page where you got to do crazy stuff like that? Now, we know the market's not perfect. Really, you're going to adjust $10,617 for a pool, or you're going to have to explain why you might have used $11,000 or $12,000 because there's a confidence interval there. It doesn't show the confidence level here. And sometimes those confidence levels, you got to be a little bit careful of them because, like, look at this one. This one goes from close to our number. That's a pretty big spread. Oh, this one's great. Negative $426.86.70. That's kind of like, hey, throw a dart. You want to use that, guys, or do you want to use this? Yeah. No, that's the number. Got a green check mark there. God bless America. Here's all of my data. Here's my strategy. Now, what do? Easy. Our new and improved fire shot tool, which is totally awesome. Actually, very similar mechanics to web page screenshot. All you do is you highlight it. It scrolls down. You might have to bump it a little bit. Take your finger off the mouse, it does its business or whatever, and then it pops up this little panel here in 2 seconds. Copy the image. Paste it right in my report. But remember, this is for your user. No ambiguity. This is what you use. Remember, you want to use this kind of page. Shows you did a comprehensive statistical analysis. Validates your findings for the report. This is your work file report. This shows you all the nastiness. I mean, this shows all the central, or all the different indicators of central points of value, all the statistical outputs. This shows the ranges. This shows all the roadmap, all the good stuff that we did before, except more detailed. This is the one you throw at a rocket scientist. Say, okay, you want to see my data? I'll show you my data. Now, easy way, in the new screenshot, fire shot, on this one is easy. I mean, do capture entire page. Give it a second. You see it's bumping around. I'm not doing that. It's bumping around. It's catching every part of this page that I want. And then when it's done capturing it, look over here. You can save it as an image. You can save it as a PDF. You can print it. Point it to where you want. Save it as a PDF. And this is all the stuff that he just printed and captured. So don't worry about our PDF or PNG. We still don't have those in there, and we don't feel a need yet. We'll get it someday. I don't even know. We might just take out those buttons. Mike would probably be happier if we took out those buttons, because he's the person that's got to bang his head against the wall and fix those. And he's got tons of awesome enhancements that he's working on for you that take precedence over the window coverings. I mean, we want to get the meat. So I showed you, we tackled that bath. I mean, you guys know, we're not scared of other methods. Now, there's times where I just did a report last week, a very high-end property, limited data. I banged on pairs for a long time, and I could not get a good quality sets of data. There was just way too many variations. Why? 80% of the properties that were in my data set were cash transactions. When you don't have a lot of checks and balances, or you have rural markets with large deviations of things that can be different, when the data is just not highly correlated, it doesn't matter what method you use. And I dumped it into regression finally as a last-ditch effort just to see. And sure enough, validated my own, what I already knew. The data was garbage in regression too. So, I mean, there are times, guys, where it's going to be a challenge. And you might have to go old school. You know what I did on that one, guys? I dumped all my data into Microsoft Excel, and I spent about 3 hours. I did grouping statistics, which is old school. But it's truly was the only method that I could use to get any kind of support. Now, you guys are sitting there going, God, you spent 3-4 hours on Microsoft Excel doing that. Yeah, I did. And I charged $1,500 for that report. So I didn't mind doing the data. Remember, if you pay me, I'll sit there and be a number junkie for you all day long. Now, on that one, going in, I knew it was going to be challenging. Now, I would have got them. I'd have got them at the well. If pairs would have worked right out of the gate, trust me, I made money. But it didn't. I still made money because I charged them knowing that it was probably going to be, a fool's folly of trying to get any kind of statistical data from pairs or regression for that matter. Just remember, I mean, you got that page to show, or you can deal with that page and then have to give up on a bath, which you don't have to here. I mean, look at that. I mean, but you saw the complementary nature of the numbers, and I wanted to show you because once in a while, you guys, I know as an appraiser, the most important function of this platform is the numbers. You've got to have confidence in the numbers. So I wanted to show you this because everybody runs around there, most people, not most people, some know-it-alls, want to run out there and say regression's the end-all be-all awesomeness. Well, okay, then I just showed you that we had almost complementary numbers in every field except we solved for bath. They didn't. So you can't on one hand say that one method rules, but yet our method has more flexibility, but yet at the end of the day gets the same kind of numbers, but it's not good. It's not good. It's better. It's awesome. The power and the features. You just need to learn how to use it. Now we took away, we did no tolerances here. I mean, if you really didn't like that, it was sticking in your craw, I mean, you could try to make changes in your tolerances and see what kind of impact it has. Maybe you can liven this one up if you think. Now, people say, well, that's, what are you doing? No. That's totally normal. Remember, statistical model under these rules, if we change the rules, we're going to get different results. That's statistics, guys. That's nothing that's a bad thing. Everybody knows that. But, I mean, you have the ability to do that here. You don't have that ability. Now, we just did it again, and we blew out our bath adjustment. You don't have that ability in the other methods. You know, whatever number they kick out, you're stuck with. You're not stuck ever with pairs. You can use other methods and build them into pairs. I mean, we can't state it enough, the power and the flexibility. I wanted to get into another, yeah, see, I didn't like that. But that's okay. I showed you. We solved for it. We just blow out that tolerance. I don't care. I mean, we solved for it. I don't need to scare you guys. But this is, it's not so much time consuming. This is things that you can do. You don't have to do it. I mean, hey, we were happy pretty quick in the game. And we could have left. And I wanted to get into another analysis today, but I'm not going to, because obviously we're running up on where our typical window of time is. But I wanted to slow walk today because I wanted you guys to see the solve once as an option. Solve fully. I mean, heck, we didn't even need, this is just no tolerances. Solve fully on everything. And we got that bath where we had that negative regression. Same numbers, almost identical everywhere else, but they can't solve for bath. You know there's a value in that bath. Negative 1970 ain't the number. 4,000 is a damn good number. I just did a depreciated cost for you, and what did we get? 4,000 bucks. Credible. Everything else right in line. So that's why I wanted to slow walk it with you today. I wanted to show you, don't be afraid to whip out your cost approach book. If bathroom is just that one variable that always just makes you pain in the rear end, don't be afraid to go commando, adjust only, put in a depreciated cost number, put a comment in your addendum where you got that number. Don't be afraid to change it to solve once and try. I just showed you we had $216 and we solved once and went to 4,000 or 3,000 something, which was still a good number. I can't believe how many ways I just showed you to solve for bath where regression stuck. And that's the difference. Don't be afraid to, you don't always have to just go none and kick it out of the panel. You can get an adjustment with pairs. By God, you can build in another adjustment from a different method if you have to. And we got some things coming that's going to, I'm not telling you guys what it is, so quit emailing me about it. You're going to get a special announcement, special webinars coming. Yeah, you're going to get special webinar announcements coming, and I'm going to have my tap dance shoes on those days because I'm really excited for these new things. As an appraiser, as a user of pairs, not just a person involved in the company. As an appraiser, I'm tickled, tap dance shoes, excited about some of the things Michael is working on. Michael's the smart one in the bunch here. He's the one that understands this matrix code. So again, we got this resource up to support. We got the knowledge base articles. Pairs method defined. Remember, pairs method defined. You can cut and paste it right into your addendum. Read it yourself. I did. I wrote it. Nobody wrote it. I wrote it. Put in some links there just for some underwriters that might be challenged. FAQs. You know, what's the stats tab for? How do I use the sub-market filter? What are tolerances for? You guys always ask me about tolerances. Now this gives you the short boy answer, but then it says see tolerances in the knowledge base. Now, look at that. Click on that. That's not a hard read. Now you guys know, I mean, we're pairs free for now, but you know, we're working on e-com. Michael's wasted away to 45 pounds because he hasn't had a sandwich. No, we got to pay the light bills at some point. We've given you guys a lot of time, and we've got some awesome enhancements coming that really going to blow your mind. But for right now, it's still free for right now, and you're going to get an email from us that says, hey, we're kicking the switch. You know, here's what you're going to do at what point in time. Don't forget to go to that YouTube channel. Hours of content. Hours of content. A little late on getting last week's webinar up. That was my fault. It was my fault. Kane is totally on the ball. I forgot to upload it to him for him to edit. Cut my voice down so it's not so grating on you. But tons of content. Recorded webinars. A fast analysis with me, the ninja. And trust me, I get in and get out. I'm on the hunt for adjustment support, and boy, I don't mess around. I slow walked this today to show you the functionality and features and just the things that just totally stand apart. I mean, make us stand apart and give you, as an appraiser, just so many different ways to go. You just got to understand how to use it. So don't forget that YouTube channel. You know what? We're going to do Pepsi Challenge for a few weeks. So not to bash competitors, because we are not opponents of other methods. We're stepping it up to show you that there really is no comparison. When you compare pairs, nothing compares to pairs. That's a good one. Michael called that one a while ago, his lovely wife. But nothing compares to pairs. Functionality-wise, what you can do. I showed you some of those things today, so you know I'm not BSing you. I mean, that's just a fact. Can't solve for Bath on one method? Go to pairs. We have at least 3 that I explored with you today, and probably more that I just left out. So thanks for coming. It's a process. Remember, go slow. If you can, if you're just learning and you're practicing, try to pick an environment where you know you have relatively similar data and you have a good set of data. Just start playing around. Don't be afraid to touch it. Test variables. Test your tolerances. Take out all the tolerances if you have a boat ton of data. I mean, don't be afraid to change the solution strategy to solve once and see what the impact is. You may like the number better, and that's okay. So it's good to have you guys. Look forward to showing you some pretty cool features over the course of the next few weeks. And thank you for coming, and happy appraising. Bye.